Okay, I probably should have done that before I started recording, and hopefully the candle in the background takes care of some of the glare. I don't know how well this is going to turn out. But anyway, here is this week's review. And Zach, I know you love this movie, and I'm going to talk about it. This is actually, I'm just going to say, this is one of the movies that you recommended I watch, mainly because of my interest in music. So that's the main reason why I watched this movie. And it was a long time coming. It's about time I sat down and watched it. And, uh, excuse me. Well, that was kind of a Dewey Finn moment, just belch in front of a serious moment. Anyways, um, anyways, so as you can tell by the the title card from a few seconds ago, I am reviewing the 2003 classic School of Rock, or the School of Rock. If you look at the neon sign in the bar that man, my eye is so itchy. If you look at the neon sign in the bar that Jack Black and his band are performing at the beginning of the movie. So, for those of you who follow my channel, I know there's only a small amount of us, but hey, we're tough. Um, the main plot of this movie for maybe the two and a half people that don't know it. Basically, Jack Black plays Dewey Finn, this loser guitarist for a rock band called No Vacancy. He gets thrown out of his own band. He gets into a bind where his roommate and his roommate's bossy girlfriend demand he pay rent, otherwise he's out in the street. So Dewey, as a last ditch effort to try and make some money, pretends to be his friend Ned, the friend he's rooming with, takes over the substitute teaching job, becomes, instead of teaching the curriculum, starts teaching kids the ways of rock and roll, and uses these kids to get into a battle of the bands to get back at his band. And he's trying to do this without getting caught by the authorities or the people at school. Either way, one or the other. You probably know where this is going, but the ending isn't exactly what you would expect. Um, so I think I want to get into my main part of the movie, which is since this is a Jack Black vehicle, essentially, I'm probably going to be spending a lot of the review talking about things that connect to his character, since he is the main protagonist in this. Um, the one thing I want to say is that his performance, at first, he was really annoying because I felt like he was being a little too passionate and a little too enthusiastic about the music. I got the sense that Jack Black was either on drugs, like cocaine or something, while he was doing his performance. But then again, he's a rock star, so who knows what he does. Anyway, um, but it just seemed like he was kind of being phony, like he was playing to the camera and trying too hard to be someone else other than a legitimate guy who's trying to take advantage of a chance that really isn't for him, but he's taking it anyway. But I will say, it's like he's one of those characters that I don't think you're supposed to like him at first, but as the movie progresses and this character develops, you do eventually start to sympathize with him. You know, I did find him kind of annoying and a little fake at first, but as the movie progressed, I did eventually. I did. I think it was about when he started teaching the kids how to play rock music. That was the point where I really started to connect with him, and I started to root for him because he is nice once you get past the annoying passion. He does find ways to connect with his students, and he also finds ways of giving them the confidence they need to perform. One example is when he convinces his kid Lawrence to play keyboards, that he is cool even though he's a nerdy kid with glasses. And then there's a scene where he convinces this overweight girl that she's got a great singing voice. Don't worry about how you look. own what you got, work with it. People love you for what you got anyway. And he even references Aretha Franklin as an overweight musician that sadly this past year has passed, but back in her day, she was something else, you know. So this movie came out in 2003. So Aretha Franklin was like early 60s at that point, so still alive and kicking. Anyway, so let's see. I hear the phone ringing. We always get a lot of numbers calling this freaking house. I don't get it. Anyway, um, awkward pause. Anyway, so I do like Jack Black's performance. It grew on me as the film progressed, but it was a little awkward and forced at certain parts. But for the most part, when he starts to connect with the students and when he starts to form bonds with everybody, that's where you really start to fall in love with this character. And I will say, a lot of the child actors in this movie, actually all the child actors, they did a really good job at portraying these kids who are kind of innocent, kind of not. Because I mean, like on Dewey's first day, one kid's like, "Oh, you're hungover, you're drunk," you know. To which Dewey responds, "No, a hangover means I was drunk yesterday." So yeah, the child actors are pretty good, and since this is a comedy, I'll get to the music in a second. The comedy is pretty funny. I mean, most of it does kind of revolve around Jack Black being a Spazzy McGee, which is funny because he nicknames one of the kids that, even though he probably deserves that nickname more. Um, I mean, I'm sorry. I like Jack Black's performance. I really enjoy this movie, but Jack Black is a cartoon character in this. Oh God. Anyway, um, so I think the next thing I can say is that the music, most of it, there's some covers and there's some montages with the original songs of the rock stars being played in the background, and I probably should know. I can't think of any of this. There's some AC/DC, some Led Zeppelin, Cream, Rush, a bunch of, you know, they're classic rock songs that I'm kind of familiar with, but I'm not the hugest fans of those bands. But I at least recognize the names in some of the songs, and there's a few original songs too, like "It's a Long Way to the Top," "Math is Great." A lot of the songs that Jack Black performs in the movie, and I will say this. One thing I never really understood about Jack Black is I understand the situation they're getting across. What I don't get is why do they, like, in the beginning of the movie, they keep hammering in how much of a lousy musician Jack Black is, and I'm like, okay, if they were saying he was a show off, if they were saying he was too much of an egotistical moron, I can understand that because the character's not that bright and he is a little full of himself sometimes. But um his guitar playing is pretty good. He dances around kind of in a adorable sort of way that kind of makes him look like a doofus, but you fall in love with it anyway because of the passion and the charm. So I don't understand why people regard him as such a lousy musician. Because it's like he does have the skills. He even has a good singing voice. I really don't understand why people say he's a lousy musician. I mean, slacker, yes, because he's not contributing to paying the rent in the apartment he shares with his friend and the girlfriend. So I mean, I could see some problems with him as far as the professional side, but I don't really understand why people see him as a lousy musician because we just don't see any real evidence that he's a loser in that regard. Because as far as I'm concerned, music is pretty much the only thing the guy's good at. So that didn't make any sense. And another thing I don't understand is that if he really loves music, I don't understand why he didn't think of opening up or finding a job teaching music before he stole his friend's job. I never really understood that, but a lot of some most of these flaws I can forgive because the movie is obviously supposed to be this kind of rock and roll farce. It's meant to be absurd. It's meant to be goofy and over the top, but it's also meant to have this heartwarming ending, which it does. So, I mean, there are some flaws with it that I've mentioned, but overall, I really did enjoy the movie. And the one thing I really love this movie for doing is that there's a scene where Dewey goes out and gets a beer with the principal of the prep school he's working at, and you do see that moment where they kind of meet eye to eye. They sort of have this moment where they bond as friends over music. And what I really love about that scene is that it just stops there with them being friends. You know, like Joan Cusack has been hardened and chewed up and spat out by the system she's working in, but Dewey kind of helps her reconnect with her more fun, carefree side. You know, so I mean, I really like the fact that they just remain respectful friends of each other because it would have been so easy for them to have that one hangout and then fall in love with each other. Which, of course, is dramatically convenient when people realize that he's been fooling everyone and isn't a real teacher right after that scene happens. That was a little convenient, but I mean, if you're gonna do the liar revealed storyline, you're gonna have to have the liar be ousted at some point. So I'm not complaining about that. I just think it was a little convenient how that was set up. But it's a movie. It's meant to be fun. Lighten up. So I think I've rambled on long enough about the movie. Uh, I know people are gonna give me crap for doing this because I complain how cheesy the Jack Black is, but this movie rocks. You know, it's a really good movie. It has some faults, but it's entertaining enough. The characters are likable and very interesting. They're not complex, but they're interesting and complete enough to hold the film and support it. I'm not sure if I'd rush to watch this movie again, but I really did enjoy it. Um, so that's pretty much all I gotta say, and hopefully you guys can check out this movie and see if it rubbed off on you differently. See ya.